Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com. I say my name three times. Generally brings me good luck. I am part of the 440 Sports Network. I am live at EDLEY'S BBQ, the best place to eat in and around Middle Tennessee. You'll find one near you. The one near me is Berry Farms, just off 65 and Paytonsville Road. Can't go wrong here. I will be having a gigantic lunch right after this show. So it might be a short show because I'm pretty hungry. We've got Whoosh Wizard in here from Scotland and Trevor Goforth as the first two participants. I'm happy to see you guys. We're going to talk about free agency window starting up early next week and goes from there. Titans not going to be active in premium people, but they're going to be active. And we'll talk about that. We're going to discuss Sam Darnold. A lot of people on Twitter, people talking to me at paulkuharsky.com on Facebook, private conversation for members and the like, seem to be perfectly fine with the idea that they're not going to chase this guy. But a lot of loud media people really disappointed in that. We'll cover that a little bit on the new Nissan Stadium economics. And, of course, all of your questions. Been a while since we've spoken. Last week's podcast, which if you didn't see, you need to go back and watch, was a series of interviews with high-ranking media members from the Combine who have interesting takes on things important to the Titans pertaining to the draft, pertaining to free agency, pertaining to draft, trade. And so you need to go back and watch that if you haven't. I thought it was a particularly good episode. Welcome to others who are popping in: Deagle, Jeff McGee, Gary Grau. Good to see you all. Tell your friends, retweet, and give them a word. Send a text to a friend with the link. Tell them, hey, jump in. Best Titans conversation around. About to get underway. Good to see so many of you. Free agency next week. Right now, Mike Herndon working on two pieces that are going to publish shortly, one offensive and one defensive previews. And I'm going to have, and this is going to be members only, I think did well in Indianapolis to get a strong feeling of who the Titans are going to be after, particularly at their biggest positions of need, right? On the offensive line, particularly at offensive tackle, at edge, and at wide receiver. And so I think I can tell you, I don't know that you're going to be excited about these names, but I think I can tell you some names to keep an eye out for as this thing gets going with a March 12th start of free agency. Trey loves the no graphic. We know what we're here for. There'll be a graphic coming up. Don't you worry. So where are they going to go heaviest in this market? Jimmy Morris, thank you. The podcast from Indy was fantastic. I appreciate that, Jim. Where are the Titans going to go heaviest in free agents? My intel tells me that they feel like they can do the most effective shopping for free agents at on the offensive line. And I think we'll see probably two offensive linemen of consequence if they can hit their marks in free agency. Two offensive linemen of consequence come to them in the free agent market. I think it's interesting, the buzz around them, and Nick Suss did well in a conversation with Chad Brinker. Titans are looking at teams that had big turnarounds, headlined obviously by the Commanders, who just had a very big turnaround. How did they do it? And, Washington, obviously Jaden Daniels was the linchpin to this whole thing. Are they going to end up with a Jaden Daniels? Don't know. Unlikely. If they draft Cam Ward, that would be, their quote-unquote Jaden Daniels. You would hope for similar results. It's a long shot that you get similar results. But also Washington had a roster that really needed a lot of work. And what did they do to do a lot of work? They gave out a lot of one-year contracts to, free agents that they thought could be helpful, not that they thought would be franchise savers. And a lot of those a lot of those good free agents, a lot of those 1-year free agents played well for them. They're now in line for better deals. Some of them that didn't play as well, won't be, and they'll probably do it again. But the Titans are going to sign a lot of people. I mean, it was surprising. The most surprising thing that Mike Borgonzi said in his public comments at the podium and in the spillover with Titans media was, excuse me, that they're going to be active in free agency. And that he wants to go into the draft, having addressed virtually every position that they have a need at, which is a big ask. I think that's highly optimistic that they could do that. So I think it's hard for the Titans to get somebody at every position. They need somebody at virtually every position on their roster. They could be okay at running back. They could be okay at cornerback. But outside of that, they need help virtually everywhere. And I don't know that you could get free agent help virtually everywhere. It's going to be hard for them to go into the draft without need at the draft. But I think it will be hard. So it's an idealistic approach, and that's the approach you want. You want to go in the draft not desperate for anything. So hopefully you've added a degree of everything through free agency so that you don't feel absolutely desperate. I think offensive line is where they will do the biggest and most thorough work. I don't think that they're incredibly fond of offensive tackle in particular in this draft and the depth of it and how long it will last them. Obviously, they hope to get back into the third round. But, ideally, you're not taking offensive linemen in the first or the second round. They're not in the third round. Then if you get to the fourth round, the pick's 102 now. It's going to go down because they're going to be compensatory picks inserted in the third and the fourth round. And when those picks are inserted, 102 becomes 120 maybe, 115, 120, 125. It's hard to find a quality offensive lineman to drop in that's going to start for you from day one and solve your right tackle problem. Now, that doesn't mean they're getting an all-pro right tackle on free agency, but are they getting somebody that's substantially better than Nicholas Petit-Frere? I think absolutely. Trey says he's open to extending Nick Westbrook-Akina. My thoughts. I think Nick Westbrook-Akina and his people will overvalue him now based on the touchdowns rather than the overall production, and probably think that he's like a 2, where the Titans still regard him as a 4 with upside as a 3. There's a big pay gap between those two spots. And so I only think he'll be back if he goes to market and doesn't find somebody. Boom, magic. There's the graphic. Only find that he doesn't, that teams don't view him as he views himself, as his representation views him. And so if he doesn't find that, then it would make sense for him to return to a place that obviously knows him, gave him his chance, and can use him correctly. But if somebody views him as more of what he views himself, he's going to do better elsewhere than he's going to do in Nashville. And they're going to be looking to replace him with somebody who is similar, but far less expensive. It's not a top 30 visit. Top 30 indicates it's your top 30 guys. It's just a 30 visit. It doesn't get publicized when one goes bad, but I'm certain some guys visit a team and don't do well. Because there are guys in the draft that don't have the personalities that teams want, that aren't as smart as they want when teams put them on the board, et cetera, et cetera. Now, teams are polite, right? If you don't have something nice to say, they don't say anything at all. So it's unlikely you're going to hear about those. What's my take on Shador, brash, arrogant, in meetings deal? I mean, I think he can come across as disinterested. There are probably some teams that he feels he's less likely to go to, where he maybe turned off the charm a little bit. He was not as good in his meeting with the Titans as Cam Ward was, in terms of his degree of knowledge with regard to understanding concepts and everything that they were asking of him. That to me is more significant. I think Cam Ward very, very much number one quarterback for them. Robert says, my producer, JT, is now on the record predicting the Titans will use the first pick on Cam Ward. Have I moved any on this front? No. I mean, I think it's entirely possible. They have not decided what they're going to do, first off. So, I mean, I think that's significant. So, there's nothing to report on this. It's all prediction. He's predicting Titans will go Cam Ward. I don't think I think that the Titans very much want to feel bowled over. The way I've used this analogy, in the Hall of Fame selection meeting, if there's a guy who is absolutely unquestionably a Hall of Famer, the presenter stands up, says Jerry Rice, and sits down. The Titans would very much like to be in a situation where the number one pick in the draft is that. Cam Ward is not that. I don't think Abdul Carter is that. That doesn't exist in this draft. But to take a quarterback at number one overall, you would like him to be that. And given that no one is that, and I think the time to move the needle to that is past, the tape moves the needle to that. They could draft him number one and be incredibly enthusiastic about him, but it's not going to be Joe Burrow enthusiastic. It's not going to be Trevor Lawrence enthusiastic. Not even going to be Caleb Williams enthusiastic. So I could see them doing it. I still think it would be probably healthier for the organization to just kind of wait at quarterback. And I know next year is filled with unknowns. You don't know what your pick is going to be, and you don't know what the pick or picks that you trade for are going to be. But if you could trade to 3 and get Abdul Carter, or if you could trade to 6 or 7 and get maybe Michael Williams and get a draft haul, a lot of good teams have been created out of getting a draft haul, and I still tend to feel like that's the way to go. That's my personal feeling. Focus has a different feeling. He wants a draft Cam, second round edge. Already you're dangerous. You don't know who's on the board at 35 at edge, so you can't prescribe that you're going to draft an edge. If there's a run on 3 edges ahead of you and you say draft edge, and then there's not a edge worth 35 at 35, your plan comes to shit. Sampson from UT. Pay for DK. If you're paying for DK, I mean, what's DK worth? It's got to be worth at least a 4th or 5th. A few free agent OTs and a safety and whammy right back in contention for the AFC South. I mean, you make it sound awfully simple. I mean, first off, that presumes Cam's going to be good, and that presumes Cam's going to be good right away. That presumes one edge is going to solve their edge problems, which it's not. And DK Metcalf, I don't know. I don't love him. I think that's a very simplistic plan. Jeff says, curious what about what I am now reporting. Where does Levis fit into all this? I think there's a scenario, probably more likely than not. I mean, we know what the scenarios are with quarterback. I don't think I've reported they're not into Darnold unless Darnold winds up being, a cheap 1 or 2 year deal, which I think is unlikely. And I think if he winds up being a cheap 1 or 2 year deal, he goes back to Minnesota. So I don't think it's Darnold. And then I don't think there are many good veteran quarterbacks out there unless Cousins could still come free from Atlanta. So that could be a possibility. They don't want Aaron Rodgers. And so then the veteran possibilities are limited, stopgap guys who we're going to find a lot of fault with. Mac Jones has a bad arm. Jameis Winston turns the ball over a ton. You know, Daniel Jones is not far removed from being awful. He's got a ton of concerns. I think it'd be somebody like one of those guys competing with Will Levis. And I think because those guys are not very good and Will Levis is not very good, that we'd see starts next year probably split up between a newcomer like one of those guys and Will Levis. The Titans themselves, Trey asks, do I know if Harold Landry is getting any interest from other teams for a trade? The Titans themselves are not expecting for Harold Landry to draw anything in the trade. And once you get to this point, you give him permission to look, ultimately where he's ending up is cut. Now, when? I don't know. Could he be tossed into a deal with the Giants for number 3? Yeah. Is he much of a sweetener in that deal? No. And, do the Giants want him in that deal because they're picking up $17.5 million? I think they'd rather see him cut and take their chances. I mean, where's he going to want to go? Well, Mike Vrabel and Shane Bowen are two guys that like him a lot. I think he'd probably rather start new with one of them than in a completely random spot. Barton Henley, thoughts on Javon Holland was reported today. I apologize for not remembering where, that the Titans will have interest in Miami free agent safety Javon Holland. He's a terrific run-stopping safety. He is not a terrific coverage safety. Finding both is a challenge and an expense. But if you're going to find a safety that is one-way limited, I'd rather he be a coverage guy than a run guy. How about that second? How about that second linebacker be a run guy? I don't know. I would like one of them, the safety or the second linebacker going next to Kenneth Murray, who sounds like he's going to be back, be a two-way guy for starters. They're not going to spend a lot of money at inside linebacker. It's apparent they don't really believe in it. But it can't be run. Maybe they're run coverage, or you'd pray one of them is a 3-down player that can do both. Danny, I don't know specifically what days guys are in for visits. I think a couple of them may have happened. One of them may be happening today. Somebody earlier asked if it wasn't smart to have them in before free agency. Absolutely. Now, Hunter got pushed back, but Cam, Sanders, and Carter, they will have had all three of those guys in Nashville before free agency starts. So the next stage of getting to know them personally will be complete before they go into free agency. Again, though, I mean, if you're going out and signing a good edge, there's no great edge in this market. Does that tell you anything about Abdul Carter? I think not. If you're signing a quarterback here, I don't know that signing a quarterback tells you anything about their intentions with Cam Ward. So they gain a comfort level here, but I don't think there are any major giveaways coming in free agency that signal what they are or aren't doing in free agency. I really don't. I think a lot of people will jump to conclusions that they do, but JR says Titans got to get a wide receiver one. I mean, I'm a big proponent of this. I want a first-rate wide receiver who is, high draft pick. This is not the best wide receiver class we've seen, given how good the wide receiver classes have been lately. So I'm not sure who that guy is in this class. You know, Jack Bash is an awfully good wide receiver, good-looking wide receiver. I think he's a guy you'd love to have on your team who could be super productive. But does he have the traits of a flat-out number one wide receiver? He doesn't. Is he a guy you'd love to have on your team? I think absolutely. So I don't know. There will be very good number one, very good high-ranking wide receivers that the Titans could add at 35, and I think that will definitely be in play. Is that guy going to automatically be a number one? And I think we're too much into number one, number two. Like, you need two very good receivers. Ridley can be one of them. This draft pick should be the other one. Hope, it'd be great if he was better than Ridley, certainly mentally more consistently reliable. But the 1-2 thing is more of a fantasy thing than a football team thing in a lot of degrees. Jeff McGee, with what I'm hearing on Darnold and maybe the thinking regarding free agency in the draft, where does Levis fit in? I've covered this already. Does he now have a chance to compete for a significant role? Yeah, I think there's a very likely scenario where he's competing to be the starting quarterback again. Ed Henry, good to see you as always. Wouldn't most teams have already decided their quarterback at 1 before the visit? If a team has to wait to be convinced, then I'm not sure their level of confidence. But look, it's March 6th. They've got until April 28th to decide. Why would they have had to decide before the visit? That said, Borgonzi made it very clear, and fans hate to hear this. Their board was set coming into the combine. Now, from there, barring major medical stuff, the Titans board was set coming into the combine. And Borgonzi said there only be slight moves, small moves, based on things that they discovered from there. Combine performances, pro day workouts, 30 visits, meetings, and all of that. Now, what's a small move? To me, a small move's 5-6 spots. So you ask yourself, what was Cam Ward 6th on their board when they went to Indianapolis? And could all of this other stuff get him from 6 to 1? Do we think that Cam Ward was 1 on their board on film, even if they give a nudge to a quarterback, which I don't think they do in purely grading football play? So when they set that board before they went to Indianapolis, where was Cam Ward? Do we think he was higher than 5 or 6? I really suspect not. And then do we think what he does, he didn't do anything at the combine, what he does at his pro day, what he's done in his visit with them, what he'll do in a private workout, they call it, where he probably doesn't work out, but they'll spend a day with him in his hometown, be around his family, see him in his own environs, all of this other stuff. Is that enough potentially to kick Cam Ward up at least 5 spots on their board? 6? And if it moves him up 5 or 6, where does that land him? I just find it hard to believe he's going to land number 1 on their board. JR, trading back will net some good future draft capital. And this year, get back into the 3rd this year. Look, they really, really want a first-round pick in a trade back. And I think they can get a first-round pick even from the Giants. Even from the Giants. If the Giants want up there to ensure they get their quarterback, they're going to give up what they have to give up. Now, if you traded with the Browns, you're not getting a first-round pick, I don't think, for going up 1 spot. But I think with anyone else, you're getting a first. Now, are you dead set on getting Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? Then you go to 3. Are you dead set on getting more picks? And you go to the Raiders or the Jets at 6 or 7, provided they want to go. That's the key question to the whole thing. Jay says Cam Ward is not a blue chip prospect. I tend to agree. Lots of teams have taken non-blue chip quarterback prospects at 1 because they're there and because they got to try it, right? I think the Titans are going to be more disciplined than that and let somebody else do it. Now, will the Titans, get destroyed if Cam Ward turns into a good quarterback for somebody else? Absolutely. It's a risk you're willing to take. What are the odds that the number 1 quarterback in the draft at number 1 hits? Low, based on what we've looked at over the last 10 years. Who's hit? Burrow. And maybe Williams is on route. Trevor Lawrence, everybody agreed was a generational quarterback. 4 years in, he's not. Maybe he turns into that. The rest of them, the rest of the top quarterbacks in the NFL draft over the last 10 years have not been very good. Bryce Young still has a chance, really deficient in the height category. Lawrence, just talked about. Burrow. Kyler Murray, no. Baker Mayfield, he's a very good quarterback now, but, and I mean, Cleveland botches things, but he was not great. Jared Goff, good quarterback now. Rams didn't have faith in him. Won a Super Bowl, right? But you wouldn't look at that guy and say, ooh, number 1 pick in the draft. Jameis Winston? Absolutely not. Now we go back further than 10 years. Andrew Luck? Absolutely. Right? Cam Newton? Absolutely not. Sam Bradford? Absolutely not. Matthew Stafford? Yeah. Give me Matthew Stafford. Jamarcus Russell? No, thanks. Alex Smith? Nice quarterback. He was the wrong guy. The right guy got chosen at 24 in Aaron Rodgers. Then you go back. Eli Manning? Sure. Carson Palmer? Sure. David Carr? No. So, I mean, the misses are far more frequent than the hits. Timing on a trade. SR4 wants to know. Feels like you have to do it before adding a quarterback in free agency. Absolutely not. Why? Atlanta last year, I mean, they set a nice precedent there that softens this for everybody. But the veteran quarterback the Titans would be adding would be nowhere near, A, the quality of Kirk Cousins, though Kirk Cousins obviously didn't play up to that, and B, nowhere near the contract of Kirk Cousins. So who's the quarterback you add in free agency that makes Cam Ward a non-player in the draft? Nobody. Also, if the Titans were to sign some miracle free agent, if there was a great free agent out there and the Titans signed him, does that trade the value of number 1? It would mean the Titans aren't drafting a quarterback at number 1. But it wouldn't mean the Giants aren't trading to number 1 to get a quarterback, which would concern the Raiders who want to get their quarterback, which would concern the Jets who want to get their quarterback, which would concern the surprise team who wants to get their quarterback. So it's not just about getting there so that the Titans don't take Cam Ward. If the Titans are trading the pick to you, they're obviously not taking Cam Ward. So it's not like you're convincing them not to take Cam Ward. They've decided not to take Cam Ward. The thing you're doing is getting in front of other teams who want to get to number 1 to take the same quarterback that you want to take. Your bigger concerns, if you're the Browns or the Giants, are the teams behind you who are going to vault over you to come get him. Howie, the Titan, says they just have to take a risk. They have the opportunity with Shedeur Sanders to meet so many organizational, marketing, and winning needs. They can't give a shit about marketing needs. And you can't take Shedeur Sanders because he's a name. If you think he's an inferior quarterback to Cam Ward, you can't consider Shedeur Sanders. Marketing thing is not a thing. You know what markets? Winning. If they think Cam Ward is a better quarterback to help them win, which I believe they do, take Cam Ward. Then you win some games. Then you market. Yeah, Jeremy, thanks for reading. I wrote that Harold Landry, the initial machinations of him going to take a pay cut were put in motion, and it was a non-starter. and they want to get out from under the money. It seems like he would like a fresh start as well. Jeremy is making the mistake of not reading PaulKuharsky.com. The rest of you can't make that mistake. Listen, I've been all over things from the combine. Had several really good news stories. Told you 2 days ahead of national media that tried to pretend like they were breaking something that the 4 top picks were scheduled to 4 top prospects were scheduled to come to Nashville to meet with the Titans for 30 meetings before the draft, one of which got pushed back. You need to support good independent local journalism on your team. Plus, read a lot of stuff that's not open to the public, including James Foster's piece that's up right now about how combine numbers and conversations have or should be affecting the Titans' views of those guys. Mike Herndon's upcoming 2-part preview of Titans free agency, and my upcoming story, which is going to be really big on the names the Titans are looking at in free agency, which starts next week. PaulKuharsky.com, $750 a month, $81 a year. A steal at that price. Helps keep this whole thing going. Helps me be able to be here with you, as does EDLEY'S BBQ. That's where I'm broadcasting from here. Just off Paytonsville Road at the intersection of 65. Phenomenal barbecue place. There's one near you. You can come here to Franklin and Berry Farms. You can go to the factory in Franklin, which is not far from here. 5 Points in East Nashville. If you're on the other side of town, Sylvan Park, closer to the middle of things. Donaldson, Gallatin, 12 South, Nolansville. I wonder, do you guys have fried ribs today? I'm out of luck on the fried ribs. I may be having pork today. But I'm sticking around, and I'm going to eat. And I am going to eat well. Back from Indianapolis, where barbecue was not an option. And I'm back to my favorite option. EDLEY'S BBQ. You got to check it out. If you're a regular, come one more time than you do. If you're not a regular, you come once in a while. Smell that with me. Delicious. Come, eat, imbibe, enjoy. Have a cocktail, nice cold beer with a delicious plate of anything you prefer. You cannot go wrong. EDLEY'S BBQ. Check it out. And please become a member of PaulKuharsky.com. It's the best way to ensure that you keep getting behind-the-scenes stuff and tough questions asked of decision makers who, frankly, have not done very well recently and need to do better. Appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and give a thumbs up. And wherever you're watching or listening, retweet, give a thumbs up, subscribe, like, rate, review, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Twitter/X, and YouTube. Appreciate all of your support. Back to your questions. JR could see Gardner Minshew being signed as a bridge. I would prefer Mac Jones, who just beat them twice, or Winston, but certainly he would be in that mix. Barton, when you're saying from TD, I have no idea what you're talking about. You've got to ask the entire question in each thing. I'm not keeping track of your last 3 questions. Focus. Why do most people presume Manning will leave college after only 1 full season and be the best quarterback ever? He only had like 8 snaps. He's a Manning. He's got some big legs and some great skills. And I would presume he's going to be a good NFL quarterback as well. The DNA's got something to say for it. I don't know that he's going to leave next year. I think people would want him to leave next year. I think a lot of people presume a guy who's presumably going to be the number 1 pick doesn't have reason to stay. Hey, guys. But he could well stay. Got insurance policies and money coming in college in a way that you didn't used to. And you don't have to hurry your clock along in the NFL. There are a lot of quarterbacks who, whose fates are unknown. There's not like a clear guy. Manning probably would be a clear guy, but there's not a clear guy who's number 1 pick in next year's draft. there are a pool of quarterbacks who, have a chance to make for a better pool of quarterbacks than this group. And I think it's rare to have back-to-back bad quarterback classes. Barton wants kind of my perfect scenario for free agency in the draft. I still really like Abdul Carter. I think it would be great to get Abdul Carter, though injury stuff is making me a little bit nervous. I'd like them to trade to 3 with the Giants, probably for Abdul Carter. Load up on as many of these, low price free agents that they see things in as they can get. Fill out that roster. Trade back in the second round too, if you can. Get yourself, a lot more than 2. See if you can't double up and get yourself 4 top 100 picks in this draft. First rounder next year. Urge patience. Don't talk big like they did last year, like they're going to be right in the thick of it. And, stay disciplined and patient yourself the way that you've talked about doing. Sam's hoping that Ward really impresses them, which, he certainly has potential to do or have done. I think he's maybe already done with that. Mike Vrabel's burner says it kills me that everyone seems to be talking about anyone but the best player in the draft, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter could well be there for them at 3 if they make that move, and that could be the pick. It could be the safest pick. His health is not a concern, though you wonder about his size. He's a hell of a football player. You can't let the fact that you're seemingly okay at corner for 2025 impact that decision. Can help you at receiver too. Maybe, in time convinces you he's more of a wide receiver than a corner. You're probably right. He's probably not being talked about enough. I think the negotiating period starts at noon Eastern. Jonathan, this is the kind of question that kills me. Any idea on why the Titans are so slow to replace Mike Keith? I thought they would be more active at this point with the draft coming quickly and reasonably local candidates. Like, what's the rush? You got to have Mike Keith's replacement call the draft? Who gives a fuck about the draft? Like, the job is I know they value the weekly part of it, but the play-by-play part of it is very big. It could be 2 different people. We don't know where they are in the process. They could announce somebody tomorrow. But everybody wants everything immediately. If it doesn't happen immediately, the team's dragging their feet up. I don't think they're in any hurry. I don't see the reason why they should be in any hurry. Like, who cares if they haven't done it yet? So it's not the matter of doing it fast. It's a matter of doing it right. And on something that you can actually take your time and be sure to get it right, be sure to get it right. That's the number one concern. Number one concern is getting it right, not getting it fast. And I wouldn't obsess over local. I mean, it'd be great if there was another Mike Keith, another local situation, but what they need is a really talented person or 2, not a really local person or 2. Stonehouse, Eddie has to have an idea who they're prioritizing, extending, or bringing back. I think they'd really like to have Sebastian Joseph Day back, but he could go back. I don't think they have any interest in bringing Radens back. If he was back, he'd be a backup, and I think he'll probably have a chance to start somewhere. Stonehouse is restricted. They've got control over him. So, the 2 most valuable unrestricted free agents are obviously Sebastian Joseph Day and NWI. And I talked about NWI early. I think he's going to get he's expecting to make a lot more than they're going to be willing to pay. Hutton would fit like a glove, Jonathan Davis says, but maybe that ship has sailed. Look, Hutton's very, very talented, but he's got no experience calling anything close to an NFL game. So could he be good at it? He could be great at it. But, there's a whole big world out there for them to explore as opposed to the little world that you know. I'm also sure he's been critical of Amy Adams Strunk. I don't know if they're going to, be babies and weigh stuff like that or not. J.C. Latham, the potential to flip him, Jeff McGee, is all based on who else they bring in. MB says, I would be happy with Carter, Hunter, or a trade back with the 2021 first. Needed to get the quarterback next year. Yeah, well, they can get Carter or Hunter with the trade back. Rick needs insight on don't block the box. So you're at a light, a four-way, two big roads intersect. Two big roads intersect. If you go into the intersection, you've got a green light, you go into the intersection, but there's traffic ahead of you. That means that you're stopping in the intersection and the light changes. The light changes and you are stopped in the intersection. You are now blocking the box because the light changes and people are set to go the other way, but they can't go because you were too dumb to stop and leave the intersection open so that when the light changes, people could go through. You can't go into the intersection if there's not room on the other side of the intersection for you. This is completely different than poking out like when it's time to make a left turn, when there's plenty of room for you to make the left turn. If you're at the head of the line, you should absolutely poke out into that intersection, knowing that as the light changes, there's plenty of room for you to make the turn. And as the light changes, you make the turn and you go. But you cannot, under penalty of going to the stockade, pull into an intersection with no room to clear that intersection. Then when the light changes, stop traffic going the other way, which creates a much worse problem. It's idiocy, and people down here just don't seem to understand it. Up in New York, you get ticketed for that. Here, everybody's like, oh, how would I have ever known those cars weren't going to move forward? I mean, I'm just going to sit here in the intersection and block everybody. Ed says, I've been hearing talk that the Titans must take their quarterback if they don't trade out. Do I agree that it has to be quarterback if they stick and pick? I don't know why they'd stick and pick if they're not taking quarterback. I mean, they're going to get offers from people who want a quarterback. So I just don't understand that line of thinking. Like, if they're not taking quarterback, there's going to be an offer for them to go up. Now, is it the greatest offer in the world? Is it the exact offer they want? No. But it's their job to maximize it and get out of it. I mean, there's a lot of this. Cam Ward would be drafted 8th if the draft was last year. Well, the draft isn't last year. This is this draft. I mean, it's interesting to place things in context and have a feel for where people stand. But this is this. Where did De Niro say that? See this? This is this. Let me tell you a little bit about Zen Sports, the other sponsor of this fine podcast, and they've been with me a long time. You need to get the Zen Sports app if you live in Tennessee. Put it on your phone and make it your place to bet. Zen Sports is reserving VIP tables at Dierks Bentley's Whiskey Row on Saturday, March 15th. If you want to head over there, they invite any of their customers to email them if you'd like to reserve a spot. Events at VIP Play Inc. VIPPlayInc.com. So you just email them, tell them that you'd like a table over at Dierks Bentley's Whiskey Row on Saturday, March 15th. There'll be some good basketball to watch on the TV there, and I'm sure a lot of great specials for you. Events at VIPPlayInc.com. Zen Sports hosting a nice event at Dierks Bentley's Whiskey Row, Saturday, March 15th. Check it out. Zen Sports, the place to bet. Sign up, use code TNPaul and bet at least $10, you get a free membership at paulkuharsky.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and over and in Tennessee to bet. Check out Zen Sports. A little bit about the stadium. I had a story up this morning you need to read. An outsider stadium, expert on kind of stadium financing and the like, Mark Gannis, I talked to. The Titans have something that's called a guaranteed maximum price, which sounds kind of better than it is. He says these things are good if you really, really manage them. And the Titans have done a really good job about managing them. Listen to things that make them good about it. They've been really smart about staying ahead of things, and they've been really disciplined. They're kind of running things on the stadium construction management side the way they want to run things as a football team. It's an interesting kind of comparison there to me. Things supposed to come in at $2.2 to $2.3 billion. Titans are only on the hook for the overruns that come for Amy saying, hey, you know what? We ought to add this or we ought to do that, things that aren't in the original plans. And they put a lot of time and effort on the front end into the original plans so that they're not tempted to come up with stuff along the way, which is what has happened at a lot of the newer buildings. Along the way, they kept adding stuff and putting new stuff in, and that's where the overruns came. So they're optimistic that they aren't going to have overruns on their side of things, and overruns on the other side of things are guaranteed to be covered by the construction company, who said one of the things that they fear are tariffs affecting the price. Take that and do with it what you will. My one big curiosity when I toured the site the other day, Nissan Stadium, currently the field runs north-south. Now, in an indoor stadium, it doesn't really matter the orientation of the field in terms of the sun. Kind of translucent roof. There's going to be light through there, but not light in a way that would affect, somebody catching a pass or anything like that. The new field is east-west. And I wanted to know why change the orientation of the field. Simple answer is it's just the footprint of the property. It's more efficient use of space for them to be east-west than north-south. And so we're all going to go from facing this way to facing that way. That's what that's about. What else is on your mind? Paul Kuharsky podcast here. Retweet, thumbs up, subscribe, like, rate, and review. And appreciate that. A little bit more on Sam Darnold. And you guys seem more tepid on him than a lot of people. 35 of the guy's 98 career touchdowns, nearly 36% of his career touchdowns came last year. Last year, he threw for 254 yards a game. He threw 35 touchdowns, 12 picks, 8 fumbles, 102.8 passer rating. Great season. 56 starts before that. 210 passing yards a game, 62 touchdowns, 55 picks, 36 fumbles, 76.7 passer rating. So he's on a really good team last year that played really well around him, had a really good coach, and everything fell into place for him. Does that one season offset the previous 7 seasons? Now, those previous 7 seasons, he was on really not good teams when he played. But I just think the people who are like, this guy is what the Titans absolutely have to do to give themselves a chance, are just dismissing 7 years of pretty bad quarterbacking and saying that he has magically washed all that away with one really good season, and that one really good season makes Sam Darnold a good quarterback. And I think he easily come to Nashville, where things are not going to be great next year. I think we all know that. And turn back into who he was. He turns back into who he was, and everybody can say, what the hell did they give this guy good money and contract length for? Now, if the market comes way down and the contract length comes way down, I think they'd look at him as an option. But you know what's going to happen then? It's going to go back to Minnesota. You're going to go back to Minnesota. As long as he continues to play well in Minnesota, they'd stick with him, I think. I don't understand why they wouldn't, but I don't. Titans aren't enthusiastic about him, and I can see why. I don't think it's some offense against mankind to not like a guy who threw 7 more touchdowns than interceptions in 7 seasons. Fumbled the ball 36 times in 56 starts. Had a 76.7 passer rating. I mean, they got to do better than that. Now, they might not do better than that right away. But I think it's perfectly fine to aspire to do better than that in the next 2 years. Isn't it? Javon Holland talked about him earlier. John Shepard. Good run stopper, not as good in coverage, I don't think. Would prefer a more well-rounded guy, but take him over options that they have as their second safety right now. C. Rich says, am I ultimately saying that Titans fans should be ready for a backup level quarterback as a starter? Yeah, in one scenario, I've said Mac Jones, Jameis Winston, one of those kinds of guys with Will Levis is a possibility for the Titans next year. I've said it here twice now. I wrote it yesterday. Read. Said it on Robbie and Rextra. Listen up. Read up. I mean, if the Titans were to trade down to 3, what other picks would you want in addition to that one to do the deal? I mean, I think you get the Giants' 3rd rounder and next year's 1st. You start there. Start there. Chill Mode says, for that reason alone is why I don't want Carter. He's only had one really good season. I'd much rather have Pierce. Great production and more experience. And let me guess another reason. What's the other big reason that somebody in this chat would really want Pierce over Abdul Carter? Rocky Top. Overvalue. Volunteers. But Pierce is a good player. It's a good player. Be fine if the Titans got went a different direction in the first round and wound up with Pierce at 35. Though there are some questions about Pierce, but Abdul Carter had edge production for 1 year because he played edge for 1 year. He was off the ball linebacker before that, a pretty good off the ball linebacker before that. It's not his fault he wasn't playing the position he's playing now. So it's not 1 year production. It's 1 year playing the position. That's different. That's a lot different. And Pierce is going to be a good player, but he's not going to be as good a player as Abdul Carter. I don't think, and most people don't think. Stadium question from Jordan Pace. So who gets the credit with the construction company's compliments on the team stadium process? Burke? Why is that not translating on the field? Well, clearly, Jordan, you see that those are two different things. One is a business operation and one is a football operation. And the business operation hasn't been that great either. The stadium element of the business operation has been good. And Burke has headlined that, yeah, with other people, Adolfo Birch and DeCourcy, I can't think of his first name, who they were smart enough to hire, a construction expert, who they hired, I think, in the fall of 2021 and brought in-house, which is another reason things have gone well. They hired construction people and put them on staff rather than dealing with people who worked for other people. Get a lot of credit for that. But why doesn't it translate to football? It's completely different departments. I don't know what business you work in, but I mean, it's not unheard of for one element of a business to be excelling and another element of a business to not be excelling. Trevor Lawrence certainly coming out for most teams had a higher grade than Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson coming out. It's not an exact science by any means at all. By any means at all. And Rick Snyder says, don't block the box. You're trying to fix stupid, and it's an exhausting job. It is an exhausting job. I nap a lot. I'm very tired. But fixing stupid is part of what I've taken on in my role as a media person who goes beyond what I cover. Jerry says, a little excited about the potential of Carter, Sweat, and Simmons. Sweat and Simmons are not great pass rushers. I know the Titans have sold you that they are. They're not. I mean, Sweat is a really good run stopper who, can be influential on a quarterback. But I think the Titans do a good job of programming, and this is not intentional, but as they've been bad at certain things, they've reduced expectations. And so they've told you over and over how good Jeffrey Simmons is, and they market the hell out of the guy. He's a good player. He's a good player. He's not a great player. Not a great player. I mean, he's disruptive. He works his ass off. He's not the leader he's made out to be, and he's not been as impactful in the pass rush game as you'd like him to be. And Sweat has upside to get there and be that. But as a 38th pick in the draft, I think it's reasonable to have expected more from him last year. Now, Carter absolutely has to be in the backfield. McCoy was hired by the Titans as hired by Callahan as like a offensive senior assistant or some such. He didn't hire him to be interim head coach, insurance policy. He's not been on the market as a head coaching guy. He's had experience as an offensive coordinator. I'd call him more like a play caller, insurance policy. That could certainly end up the interim head coach if they fired Callahan during the season. But that's not what he's shopping for as he brings him in. Do I have enough lemons on my drink? Moving back in the second round depends, Luke Roberts, on who's there. But I think moves back as often as you can make them to get more. More the better. Wow, this is one of the funniest comments I've ever heard. JR says to MB, if you want level-headed takes, it's PK or Blaine. Please don't bunch me with Blaine. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody put us in the same basket, and I hope the last time. He's pretty local. Jimmy Morris, going back to the hits. Pretty local. Who was that the guy was saying was pretty local? You get bonus points there, Jimmy Morris, if you can remember the context of that. This is more like it, JR. You should stop here before you're adding anybody else to it. For those listening, he says, I'm the best local Titans reporter you've got. Jim Stamos, also Stamos, related to the famous John Stamos. You could see his picture. If you're watching, he is nearly as handsome as John Stamos. How confident am I that they will trade down? Loves my show. I feel pretty confident that they're going to trade down. I mean, the thing that changes it is if obviously they fall in love with Cam Ward. I think that they I don't think they do that. See, Rich, everyone wanting this modern offense has to realize we haven't had a modern quarterback since Steve McNair. I don't know. Look, the best of Ryan Tannehill, you could call that not modern. Play action, a lot of modern teams that are winning run play action. Titans ran some kick-ass play action. Derrick Henry wasn't the most modern player. He's pretty damn effective. And I want quote-unquote modern offense, but what I want mostly is offense that moves the ball and scores points. And for 2 years there with Arthur Smith, they moved the ball and they scored points. Well, they had A.J. Brown. They couldn't handle having a successful wide receiver. It wasn't modern in that the running back wasn't a pass catcher. And that their best player was off the field in 2-minute drills and third downs and all of that. But there was something modern. I mean, A.J. Brown catching slants and banging off the first guy and outrunning everybody else to the end zone. That seemed pretty modern. Yeah, Callahan's supposed to bring that, and he's going to have a chance to bring it. And I think people are thinking that Callahan gets fired if things go poorly this year, or even if things start poorly this year. I am not that convinced. I mean, I think Brinker and then Borgonzi together have really done what they can to sell Amy Adams-Strunk on patience. And if they've sold Amy Adams-Strunk on patience, and we know that she could change her mind at any time, but it appears that she's bought what they've sold her for the time being. The longer they can keep her at bay with the patience and discipline thing, well, then year 3 of Brinker in this role and Callahan in this role is when they need to, I think, begin to really show some dramatic improvement. That doesn't mean that they're tanking 2025. It means that they're being patient with 2025 and they have some realistic expectations. I don't think you're going to hear Borgonzi talk this year like they're going to be some big contender, the way that Rand Carthon was on Sirius XM radio saying that we've addressed every hole, front line and backup, he said on that radio interview, which is just a ridiculous, delusional thing to say. I don't think these guys are delusional about where this team is. I know they're not. I know they know they're in trouble. They are in trouble. And when you're in trouble, it takes time to get out of trouble. Sam asking any free agent fans should keep an eye on. Sam, I know you know free agents to keep an eye on because you're in the All-22. And the All-22's gotten advanced word. But yes, I will write a piece soon with free agents that Titans should keep an eye on. And that will be for paying members. And you should come become a paying member of Paul Kuharsky. $7.50 a month, $81 a year. Best value there is. If you're a big Titans fan, you claim to be a big Titans fan, and you're not a member of PaulKuharsky.com, you're not as big a Titans fan as you claim. Let's be honest. Endorsements. Go ahead. Flow the endorsements here in the railing of questions. Of course they're not. Mr. Food Aisle says, I'm butchering his name, but he's a nice guy. Jordan Pace said, hearing PK's name and Blaine's together makes me miss Mark Howard. Guess what today is? Today is the day that Ravenwood Baseball JV will be playing its second game of the season. And proud baseball dad is going to eat a meal and go watch his kid, hopefully get a second start. Maybe not. We'll see. One of 2 freshmen started the first game. 2 walks, run scored, diving play at second base. It's a good start. Hey, bet at Zen Sports. Eat at EDLEY'S like I'm about to do right now. A very hearty portion. Sign up at paulkuharsky.com. I'm eager to have you over there. You don't know what you're missing if you're not part of things. Stay tuned for really, really good free agency preview. 2-parter from Mike Herndon. And I'm telling you, my file on who they're interested in is going to hit the nail on the head. If you want to know ahead of time, that's where you're going to find out. Don't block the box, and be sure, please, to lock the locks. I really appreciate you coming. Spread the word, and I'll see you soon.